The information provided in this presentation is intended strictly for educational and informational purposes and does not constitute professional automotive, financial, safety, or legal advice. The purchase of a motor vehicle represents a significant financial commitment and involves inherent variables regarding market conditions, individual vehicle history, and maintenance records. Any data discussed regarding vehicle longevity, cost of ownership, or mechanical durability is based on historical trends, industry case studies, and aggregated consumer reports. We do not guarantee or promise any specific outcomes regarding the performance or reliability of any specific vehicle you may choose to purchase. Viewers are strongly advised to conduct their own thorough due diligence, consult with certified independent automotive technicians for pre-purchase inspections, and speak with qualified financial advisors regarding automotive loans and budgetary impacts before making any purchasing decisions. Imagine this scenario. It is a freezing Tuesday evening in the middle of November. The sun has already set, the sleet is beginning to accumulate on the asphalt, and you are driving home on a crowded interstate with two exhausted children in the back seat. Suddenly, without any prior warning, your vehicle shudders violently. A concerning clunk echoes from beneath the floorboards, and the dreaded check engine light illuminates on your dashboard, glowing an ominous amber. Within seconds, you lose the ability to accelerate. You are now forced to navigate a 2-ton piece of machinery across 3 lanes of high-speed traffic, coasting entirely on momentum, praying you can reach the safety of the shoulder before the engine completely dies. This is not just a stressful inconvenience. It is a profound safety hazard and the beginning of a financial nightmare that traps millions of American families every single year. According to extensive industry case studies and historical trends analyzing consumer automotive debt, the average American family unknowingly bleeds thousands of dollars annually into what economists and financial analysts call a depreciating liability trap. You walk onto a brightly lit dealership lot, mesmerized by the sleek exterior styling, the panoramic sunroofs, the premium leather stitching, and the massive glowing infotainment screens. Dealerships and automotive marketing departments rely heavily on the average consumer's ignorance regarding long-term, underlying reliability metrics. They sell you on the immediate comfort and the monthly payment, completely masking the reality that the engine block under the hood or the complex transmission system bolted to it might have a documented historical trend of catastrophic failure right around the 80,000-mile mark. The reality of modern automotive engineering is that cars are no longer simple mechanical machines that can be fixed with a wrench and a weekend of elbow grease in your driveway. Today's vehicles are incredibly complex rolling computer networks. They are tightly packed with delicate sensors, heavily regulated emission control systems, complex continuously variable transmissions, and turbocharged, small displacement engines designed to squeeze maximum fuel efficiency out of every drop of gasoline. While these advancements look fantastic on a showroom specification sheet, they often introduce severe vulnerabilities. When a modern, highly digitized vehicle experiences a failure, it is rarely a $50 mechanical part that breaks. Instead, it is a $2,000 electronic control module or a $4,000 transmission replacement. This leads to a devastating financial phenomenon. Consider a family that finances a vehicle over a 72-month term. If they unknowingly purchase a brand with a hidden reputation for major mechanical failures, they run a massive risk. 3 years into the loan, the vehicle might experience a blown head gasket or a total transmission failure. Suddenly, this family is facing a massive repair bill they cannot afford, but they still owe $15,000 on the loan. They are entirely underwater, trapped paying a high monthly premium for a vehicle that is sitting dead in a mechanic's bay. This exact scenario has destroyed credit scores, depleted emergency savings accounts, and caused immense emotional stress for countless households across the country. But it gets even more concerning. Later in this deep dive, we are going to expose a very specific, beloved American classic. It is a vehicle you probably grew up admiring, a brand heavily marketed toward rugged individualism and family road trips. However, current mechanic case studies and long-term ownership data reveal that this specific model is currently one of the absolute worst financial black holes you could ever park in your driveway. You will absolutely want to cross this specific brand off your shopping list before you even think about visiting a dealership. You are an American family. Your vehicle is the lifeblood of your household logistics. You need it to commute to work, to drop the kids off at school on time, to navigate grocery store parking lots, and to safely complete cross-country summer vacations. You simply cannot afford the anxiety of an unreliable vehicle. You cannot afford to play a guessing game with your safety or your savings account. That is exactly the problem this comprehensive masterclass is designed to solve for you today. We are bypassing the glossy marketing brochures, ignoring the dealership sales pitches, and diving directly into hard empirical data. We have synthesized thousands of data points from historical warranty claims, long-term mechanic case studies, and high-mileage ownership reports to identify the vehicles that truly go the distance. We are going to break down the top 5 most reliable car brands for American families. We will not just give you a list of names. We are going to explore the precise engineering philosophies that make these brands superior. We will examine their historical trends regarding the cost of routine maintenance, the availability and affordability of replacement parts, the durability of their interior materials against the daily wear and tear of children and pets, and their consistent performance in rigorous crash safety testing. We will explain why certain manufacturers prioritize atmospheric engines over turbochargers, and why traditional automatic transmissions often outlast their modern, continuously variable counterparts. By the end of this presentation, you will possess a profound, expert-level understanding of the automotive market. You will be equipped with the analytical tools necessary to walk into any dealership with complete confidence, knowing exactly which brands offer the highest potential outcomes for long-term reliability, financial stability, and most importantly, the enduring safety of your family. To achieve this level of clarity, we must first shatter the most dangerous illusion the modern automotive industry sells to the American public in 2026. You are heavily conditioned to evaluate a vehicle based almost entirely on its immediate showroom appeal. You sit in the driver's seat and look at the customizable ambient cabin lighting, the massive high-definition touchscreens that stretch continuously across the entire dashboard, and the sleek, aerodynamic exterior curves. But the cold, hard reality of automotive engineering in 2026 is that over-the-air software updates and digital displays do not get your children safely to school during a sudden blizzard. Mechanical integrity does. We are currently witnessing a massive industry-wide technological transition in the automotive sector, where manufacturers are stuffing unprecedented levels of complex microprocessors and intricate wiring harnesses into their vehicles to meet stringent fuel economy standards and insatiable consumer demands for seamless smartphone integration. While these advanced features are highly convenient when they function correctly, historical trends clearly indicate that the more digitally complex a vehicular system becomes, the higher the probability of a catastrophic, immobilizing failure. Consider a recent case study involving David and Jessica, a family of 4 living in the sprawling suburbs of Chicago. Just last winter, they purchased a beautifully designed, highly marketed luxury SUV. It possessed every modern amenity imaginable, including a completely digitized climate control system that was integrated entirely into the central infotainment touchscreen. Imagine if you were in their exact position, driving down a congested interstate during a severe polar vortex. Suddenly, a minor undocumented software glitch causes the central computing screen to reboot and permanently freeze. Because the manufacturer eliminated all traditional physical buttons and tactile knobs in favor of a sleek, minimalist digital design, David and Jessica completely lost the ability to turn on their defroster, adjust the fan speed, or activate their cabin heat. The interior temperature plummeted, and the windshield rapidly iced over from the inside out, forcing them to pull over blind in incredibly dangerous, sub-zero conditions on the shoulder of a high-speed highway. When they eventually towed the frozen vehicle to the dealership, they discovered that a single corrupted internal control module required a complete, labor-intensive dashboard teardown and replacement. This resulted in a staggering $4,000 repair bill that was heavily disputed and ultimately denied by their third-party warranty provider due to a complex electrical exclusion clause. This is not an isolated freak incident. Mechanic case studies and class action investigations across the country are reporting identical failures. Families are being financially devastated not by traditional blown engines or snap timing belts, but by failing computer networks and corrupted sensor arrays. True reliability for an American family means rigorously evaluating how a manufacturer balances necessary modernization with proven, durable mechanical foundations. This brings us directly to the first manufacturer on our definitive list, claiming the highly competitive number 5 spot for American families: Subaru. For decades, Subaru has cultivated an incredibly loyal consumer following, particularly in regions that consistently experience severe weather conditions like the Pacific Northwest, the Rocky Mountains, and the Northeast. But we are not looking at nostalgic marketing hype. We are examining the raw, unforgiving engineering data and long-term historical trends that unequivocally justify their position on this list. The foundation of Subaru's reliability profile rests on two very specific, highly refined engineering choices that differentiate them from nearly every other mainstream competitor currently operating in the market. The first core engineering pillar is their legendary symmetrical all-wheel drive system. Unlike most modern crossover vehicles that utilize a reactive, front-wheel bias slip and grip system, which only engages the rear wheels after the front wheels have already lost traction and started spinning dangerously, Subaru's proprietary system routes power to all four wheels continuously and proactively. By mounting the engine longitudinally and keeping the heavy drivetrain components perfectly symmetrical along the center axis of the vehicle, the entire system experiences significantly less mechanical stress, torque steer, and uneven tire wear over long distances. Historical data extracted from high-mileage ownership forms consistently demonstrates that this specific drivetrain, when strictly subjected to regular differential fluid changes, is capable of extreme longevity and dependable traction in the worst possible driving conditions. The second defining characteristic is their persistent, decades-long commitment to the flat four, or boxer, engine configuration. Imagine if you took a standard inline-four engine, where the heavy metal pistons pump violently up and down, and laid it completely flat, so the pistons continuously punch horizontally toward each other. This is the boxer design. Because the moving parts perfectly cancel out each other's intense kinetic vibrations, the engine naturally runs significantly smoother, drastically reducing the long-term, compounding stress on rubber engine mounts and internal metal bearings. Furthermore, this flat, wide design drastically lowers the vehicle's overall center of gravity. For an American family carrying heavy loads of sporting equipment on the roof or attempting to avoid a sudden obstacle on the highway, this lower center of gravity provides vastly superior handling and stability during high-speed evasive maneuvers, directly contributing to proactive crash avoidance. However, our deep dive masterclass requires absolute transparency. You must understand the specific, non-negotiable maintenance requirements necessary to achieve these high-potential outcomes with a modern Subaru. In the past, older generation boxer engines possessed a well-documented historical trend of premature head gasket failures. While detailed mechanic case studies confirm that Subaru engineers have largely eradicated this specific fatal flaw out of their post-2015 models by upgrading the internal gasket materials and completely revising the block cooling passages, modern Subarus come with a completely different drivetrain component that requires your strict, undivided attention. They utilize a continuously variable transmission, or CVT. A CVT does not have traditional heavy steel gears. Instead, it uses a complex, friction-based system of expanding pulleys and a heavy-duty steel chain to provide infinite gear ratios. While this design absolutely maximizes fuel efficiency on the highway, a CVT is incredibly sensitive to thermal fluid degradation. The continuous friction generated by the steel chain slipping against the variable pulleys creates immense localized heat. This heat accelerates the thermal breakdown of the transmission fluid, shearing its protective chemical properties long before the factory-recommended service interval is ever reached. If you are a family that frequently idles in long school pickup lines or drives in heavy, stop-and-go city traffic, you absolutely cannot adhere to the standard 100,000-mile transmission fluid service intervals often suggested by dealership service advisors. To maximize the potential outcomes and lifespan of a Subaru CVT, independent automotive technicians universally recommend performing a comprehensive, specialized transmission fluid exchange every 40 to 50,000 miles without fail. Families who diligently follow this specific, proactive maintenance schedule consistently report their daily driven Subaru Outbacks and Foresters sailing well past the 200,000-mile mark with their original powertrains completely intact. Subaru has also aggressively prioritized the daily safety of your family through their proprietary EyeSight Driver Assist technology suite. Unlike competitor brands who rely on single, vulnerable radar sensors embedded low in the front plastic grille, which are easily obscured by winter snowpack or permanently damaged in minor parking lot fender benders, Subaru utilizes dual, high-definition color cameras mounted high inside the cabin behind the protective windshield. This stereoscopic vision system acts exactly like a second, tireless pair of human eyes, constantly scanning the road ahead for unpredictable pedestrians, sudden highway traffic stops, and dangerous lane drift. Insurance industry case studies frequently highlight this specific camera-based system for its extraordinary, proven ability to mitigate front-to-rear collisions, thereby actively protecting your family from both devastating physical injury and catastrophic automotive insurance premium spikes. Subaru provides an exceptionally strong, weather-beating baseline for practical family transportation. But as we continue to ascend our list of the most reliable vehicles, we must completely pivot to address a drastically different set of daily family priorities. What if your family does not routinely battle mountain blizzards, but instead battles agonizing, 2-hour daily commutes through sweltering, gridlocked urban sprawl? What if your primary financial objective is absolutely maximizing your fuel economy and minimizing your carbon footprint without sacrificing a single ounce of long-term mechanical durability? You might immediately think you already know exactly which brand holds the undisputed crown for hybrid efficiency, but the manufacturer securely occupying our number 4 position has recently completely overhauled its entire powertrain architecture. They have quietly engineered a specialized hybrid system so exceptionally durable and so remarkably efficient that it is currently stunning veteran automotive mechanics and forcing the entire global automotive industry to urgently rewrite their engineering playbooks. You will be utterly shocked to discover how this specific, widely recognized brand transformed a highly publicized past failure into their greatest, most reliable mechanical triumph. The brand occupying the highly coveted number 4 position is Honda. 2 decades ago, Honda introduced their early generation integrated motor assist hybrid architecture to the American public. Historical trends from the early 2000s explicitly show that this specific early iteration system suffered from highly publicized severe battery degradation issues, deeply frustrating transmission shuddering, and incredibly expensive out-of-warranty electrical failures. It was a well-documented mechanical struggle that threatened to tarnish their hard-earned reputation for building indestructible commuter cars. However, instead of abandoning the technology or rushing a flawed patch to the consumer market, Honda engineers retreated strictly to their research and development facilities. They completely tore down their entire hybrid architecture and fundamentally reinvented how a passenger vehicle generates and delivers power to the pavement. They entirely eliminated the traditional multi-gear automatic transmission. Furthermore, they completely abandoned the standard steel belt-driven, continuously variable transmission that currently plagues so many other manufacturers with catastrophic overheating issues. In its place, they developed the revolutionary 2-motor hybrid system, heavily deployed across their highly successful CR-V and Accord family lineups in 2026. This is not simply an incremental software update. It is a massive fundamental paradigm shift in automotive powertrain engineering. To truly understand why this specific system offers such extraordinary potential outcomes for long-term reliability and financial stability, we must break down exactly how it operates underneath the hood. In a traditional hybrid vehicle engineered by competing brands, an electric motor is typically sandwiched directly between a conventional gasoline engine and a highly complex automatic transmission filled with hundreds of constantly moving heavy metal gears, friction clutches, and high-pressure hydraulic fluid valves. Every single one of those intricately machined parts represents a potential point of massive mechanical failure. Honda bypassed this vulnerability entirely. In their modern 2-motor system, the highly efficient Atkinson cycle gasoline engine spends the vast majority of its operational lifespan acting strictly as an onboard electrical generator. Under most urban driving conditions, the gasoline engine is not mechanically connected to the driving wheels whatsoever. Instead, the gas engine simply turns a dedicated generator motor. This generator feeds electricity directly into a high-capacity, actively cooled lithium-ion battery pack, or it routes power straight to a completely separate, heavy-duty electric propulsion motor that utilizes immense magnetic force to actually turn the vehicle's wheels. Because the internal combustion engine is allowed to operate at its most mathematically efficient, steady revolutions per minute purely to generate electricity, it completely avoids the massive, destructive mechanical stress of constantly accelerating and decelerating the heavy 2-ton mass of a family sport utility vehicle. There are no heavy steel gears violently shifting up and down. There are no transmission belts slipping and generating friction heat. You are effectively piloting a fully electric vehicle that happens to carry its own incredibly efficient, completely self-contained gasoline power plant. The only time the gasoline engine physically links to the wheels is through a single direct-drive clutch mechanism at steady, high-speed highway cruising. This is exactly the precise operational window when a naturally aspirated gasoline engine is at its absolute peak thermal efficiency and lowest possible internal stress. Imagine if you are navigating the notoriously brutal stop-and-go afternoon gridlock of Interstate 85 in Atlanta, Georgia. It is the middle of July in 2026, The outside ambient temperature is hovering dangerously close to 100 degrees, and you are helplessly trapped in a slow-crawling sea of bright red brake lights. Let us examine a specific case study involving Michael and Sarah, a couple with 3 young children commuting exactly in this hostile environment. If they were driving a traditional automatic transmission vehicle, their internal transmission fluid would be rapidly approaching its thermal breakdown limit, their physical brake pads would be aggressively wearing down from constant heavy application, and their real-world fuel economy would plummet devastatingly into the low teens. But because they are piloting a 2026 Honda CR-V hybrid, their daily experience is fundamentally mechanically different. In this agonizing traffic, their gasoline engine shuts off entirely. The vehicle glides forward silently, utilizing pure electric power drawn directly from the hybrid battery. When they inevitably need to slow down to match the crawling traffic, the massive electric propulsion motor seamlessly reverses its electrical polarity. It instantly transforms into a heavy-duty generator, capturing the immense kinetic energy of the moving vehicle. It uses intense magnetic resistance to seamlessly slow the car down, without ever mechanically squeezing the physical brake pads against the steel brake rotors. It takes that captured kinetic energy and feeds it directly back into the battery pack as free electricity. Independent mechanic case studies analyzing this specific generation of Honda vehicles consistently show that families heavily utilizing this regenerative braking technology in urban environments often easily surpass 120,000 miles on their original, factory-installed brake pads. By investing in this specific engineering philosophy, you are not just saving massive amounts of money at the gasoline pump every single week, you are drastically extending the lifespan of critical, highly expensive automotive wear items simply by navigating your daily commute. This mechanical brilliance is seamlessly paired with Honda's long-standing historical trend of engineering incredibly resilient, completely family-proof interior cabins. When you are routinely hauling unpredictable toddlers, dealing with spilled juice boxes, transporting muddy athletic equipment, and managing heavy, shedding family pets, severe interior degradation is an inevitable reality for most vehicles. Honda historically combats this by utilizing extremely high-density, tightly woven synthetic seating fabrics and robust, heavily textured interior plastics that explicitly resist deep scratching and catastrophic fading under intense ultraviolet sunlight. Their physical climate control dials and steering wheel input buttons offer a deeply satisfying, heavy tactile mechanical click, specifically engineered and rigorously tested to withstand tens of thousands of aggressive, hurried turns without the internal plastic retaining clips snapping or degrading over a 10-year lifespan. Furthermore, they have perfectly mastered the complex art of hybrid component packaging. Honda engineers managed to hide the heavy hybrid battery packs entirely beneath the rear passenger floorboards, perfectly preserving an absolutely massive, cavernous rear cargo area that completely rivals significantly larger, substantially less efficient gas-guzzling sport utility vehicles. You successfully achieve the staggering fuel efficiency of a compact commuter car, the internal mechanical simplicity of a modern electric vehicle, and the sprawling versatile cargo capacity completely necessary for a massive 2-week family road trip. The potential outcomes for extreme financial savings and reduced maintenance anxiety over a standard 5 to 8 year family ownership period are truly staggering. However, even this masterclass of engineering is not entirely invincible. While their physical hardware is virtually bulletproof, their modern digital infotainment systems still occasionally suffer from the exact type of lagging digital gremlins we discussed in the previous segment, sometimes requiring frustrating dealership software flashes to resolve annoying Bluetooth connectivity drops or frozen touchscreen displays. While these are minor digital annoyances compared to catastrophic mechanical failures, they prevent Honda from climbing even higher on our definitive masterclass ranking. To find the specific manufacturer currently occupying the fiercely contested number 3 position, we must cross the Pacific Ocean and meticulously examine a brand that has taken a violently different, highly controversial philosophical approach to modern automotive engineering. While nearly every other manufacturer on the planet is currently obsessing over bolting heavy turbochargers onto tiny engines, aggressively downsizing their engine blocks to meet emissions, and forcing highly complicated hybrid integration into every single chassis, this specific brand simply refused. They looked at the current industry trend, completely rejected it, and doubled down on perfecting the oldest, most fundamental internal combustion engine design in existence. They meticulously removed every single unnecessary mechanical variable, intentionally creating a purely atmospheric power plant that is quietly outlasting nearly everything else on the road in 2026. If you are an American family that wants a vehicle that will easily survive the absolute worst mechanical neglect and still start perfectly every single morning without fail, you absolutely must hear exactly what this next company is doing. That company, securing the incredibly prestigious number 3 spot on our masterclass ranking, is Mazda. In the rapidly shifting automotive landscape of 2026, while the vast majority of the global automotive industry completely panicked over tightening government emission regulations and aggressively bolted on highly complex, heat-generating turbochargers to microscopic, heavily stressed 3-cylinder engines, Mazda engineers in Hiroshima firmly planted their feet and flatly refused to follow the herd. They completely revolutionized the traditional, naturally aspirated combustion engine instead. They created the proprietary Skyactiv powertrain philosophy. To truly understand the sheer brilliance of this contrarian approach, we must deeply analyze the historical trends of catastrophic engine failure over the last decade. When an automotive manufacturer adds a turbocharger to a small engine, they are essentially forcing massive amounts of artificially compressed, incredibly hot air into the combustion chamber to generate the power of a much larger engine. This extreme thermal heat and immense internal cylinder pressure rapidly degrade internal engine seals, prematurely roast highly expensive synthetic motor oil, and stretch internal metal timing chains well beyond their originally intended microscopic tolerances. It is an absolute mathematical certainty in mechanical engineering that drastically increasing thermal heat and internal pressure directly equates to a significantly shorter mechanical lifespan. Mazda recognized this exact long-term vulnerability. Instead of utilizing cheap forced induction to meet power demands, they engineered their 4-cylinder engines to breathe naturally, effortlessly pulling in atmospheric air at its normal ambient temperature. But to achieve the rigorous fuel economy standards and the necessary passing power required for modern American interstate highways, they accomplished something historically considered mechanically impossible for a mass-market family vehicle. They engineered an extraordinarily high compression ratio inside the engine cylinders, practically mimicking the brute force, high-pressure combustion mechanics of a heavy-duty commercial diesel engine, but engineered it to run flawlessly and smoothly on standard, cheap 87-octane regular unleaded gasoline. This precise, hyper-efficient fuel burn completely eliminates the need for fragile turbochargers in their standard family vehicles. There are no delicate metal impellers spinning at over 100,000 revolutions per minute waiting to eventually shatter from heat fatigue and send catastrophic metal shrapnel directly into your engine block. You receive incredibly consistent, highly predictable power delivery with zero frustrating turbo lag when you press the accelerator pedal. Most importantly, you remove the single greatest source of catastrophic, component-destroying heat from the engine bay entirely. But their contrarian engine philosophy is only half of the reliability equation. The true mechanical genius of Mazda, and the primary reason independent mechanic case studies consistently praise their long-term durability in 2026, lies in their absolute, unwavering refusal to adopt the continuously variable transmission for their core SUV lineup. As we explicitly established in our earlier analysis of other brands, continuously variable transmissions rely heavily on a complex system of expanding metal pulleys and a heavy-duty steel push belt that are highly susceptible to severe thermal degradation and catastrophic mechanical snapping under heavy payload stress. Mazda completely rejected this fragile, cost-cutting technology. Instead, they spent hundreds of millions of research dollars heavily refining and perfecting the traditional heavy-duty 6-speed automatic transmission. This system utilizes a physical, highly durable fluid-driven torque converter and actual, hardened steel planetary gears. Imagine if you are Robert and Amanda, a hardworking family living in the unforgiving, sweltering heat of suburban Phoenix, Arizona in the dead of summer in 2026. You decide to hook up a small utility trailer to your vehicle to haul heavy landscaping equipment across the valley. The ambient outside temperature is absolutely baking the asphalt at 115 degrees. If you are driving a competitor crossover equipped with a tiny turbocharged engine and a friction-based continuously variable transmission, you are absolutely torturing that powertrain to its breaking point. The internal transmission fluid is rapidly boiling from the friction, and the tiny turbocharger is desperately gasping for dense air, creating a massive, terrifying thermal load that is slowly warping the engine block and destroying the transmission belt. However, Robert and Amanda are confidently driving a naturally aspirated Mazda CX-50. Because their engine breathes naturally without a turbocharger, it dissipates heat exponentially faster and vastly more efficiently. More importantly, Their traditional 6-speed gear transmission physically and mechanically locks into place when accelerating. The hardened steel gears seamlessly mesh together, transferring the heavy towing torque directly to the scorching pavement without any of the destructive, heat-generating friction slippage inherent to a continuously variable transmission. They effortlessly pull that heavy trailer across the scorching desert valley without triggering a single dashboard thermal warning light or causing any permanent molecular degradation to their transmission fluid. This specific, highly intentional combination of a naturally aspirated engine and a heavily fortified, traditional geared transmission represents an almost invincible mechanical pairing that is practically engineered to outlive the actual 72-month financing term of the vehicle itself. Beyond the incredibly bulletproof powertrain, Mazda has strategically positioned themselves as the ultimate premium alternative for practical American families who demand extreme durability but refuse to sit in a cheap, plastic-filled cabin. They recognized a massive gap in the modern automotive market. Families desperately want the extreme financial reliability of a standard economy brand, but they deeply crave the whisper-quiet, heavily isolated, luxurious cabin experience of a high-end European import that usually costs twice as much. Mazda engineers aggressively targeted superior noise, vibration, and harshness mitigation to achieve this. They utilize thick, dual-pane acoustic glass in their front passenger windows, pack massive amounts of dense sound-deadening insulation directly into the floorboards and heavy door panels, and heavily reinforce the chassis weld points to completely eliminate the hollow, echoing, rattling sensation that unfortunately plagues nearly every other standard economy brand after 50,000 miles of daily driving over pothole-ridden American roads. The interior materials are heavily researched and mercilessly tested against extreme, long-term wear and tear. They utilize thick, heavily stitched synthetic leatherette materials and authentic, non-reflective soft-touch dash plastics that simply refuse to crack, peel, or warp even when subjected to years of intense, direct ultraviolet sun exposure in an uncovered suburban driveway. This meticulous, almost obsessive attention to long-term interior preservation and strictly traditional mechanical engineering provides incredibly high potential outcomes for long-term ownership and outstanding resale value. However, while Mazda provides an exceptional near-luxury premium experience at a highly accessible economy price point, they still occasionally suffer from slightly higher routine maintenance costs compared to the absolute undisputed titans of the industry due to their highly specialized engine spark plug requirements and their proprietary software diagnostic tools. To find the brand that completely and utterly dominates the number 2 position on our masterclass list, we have to look at a manufacturer that operates on an entirely different stratosphere of financial logic and engineering prowess. This next brand does not just build reliable family vehicles, they build heavily armored, rolling luxury fortresses that fundamentally defy the normal, accepted laws of automotive depreciation. We are talking about a company whose engineering standards are so obsessively, incredibly strict that they literally reject solid aluminum engine blocks right on the factory assembly line if a microscopic, hairline scratch is detected by an automated laser scanner. If you want a vehicle that will easily and safely drive your newborn baby home from the hospital today, and then reliably drive that exact same child to their college dormitory 18 years from now without a single major mechanical failure, all while wrapping you in total, absolute library-like silence, you need to completely forget everything you ever thought you knew about luxury cars. The shocking reality of our number 2 brand will completely change how you view long-term automotive investments. That brand, securing the undisputed number 2 position on our comprehensive reliability index, is Lexus. When the average American consumer hears the phrase luxury vehicle, they are heavily conditioned to immediately associate it with the devastating financial liability. Historical trends analyzing the European luxury automotive market consistently demonstrate a terrifying pattern. You purchase a beautifully engineered European import, enjoy an incredibly smooth and prestigious driving experience for exactly the duration of the 50,000-mile factory warranty, and then you immediately sell the vehicle before it financially ruins your family with catastrophic multi-thousand-dollar repair bills for failing air suspension systems, complex electrical gremlins, and deeply buried plastic timing chain guides that shatter from intense engine heat exposure. The luxury sector is typically a playground for massive, rapid depreciation and short-term leasing, not long-term family ownership. But Lexus completely and utterly shatters this paradigm. They operate under a radically different engineering doctrine that explicitly prioritizes decades of flawless mechanical endurance over flashy, unproven, and highly volatile showroom technology. To comprehend how they achieve this near-mythical status of reliability, we have to look deep inside their highly restricted manufacturing facilities, specifically at the profound concept of the Takumi Master Craftsman. In the modern automotive industry of 2026, automation and robotics handle almost every aspect of mass-market vehicle assembly. Lexus heavily utilizes these advanced robotics, but they refuse to let machines make the final determination on structural quality. Before a senior engineer can ever earn the prestigious title of Takumi Master at a Lexus plant, they must undergo decades of intense, rigorous sensory training. This includes legendary internal case studies of engineers who are required to flawlessly fold a complex origami figure using only their non-dominant hand in under 90 seconds, simply to prove their elite, microscopic manual dexterity. These masters walk the highly sterilized assembly lines, physically inspecting cast aluminum engine blocks with medical-grade stethoscopes. They are actively listening for microscopic, virtually imperceptible acoustic variations in the internal metal bearings that a sophisticated computer diagnostic program would completely miss. They run their specially gloved hands over every single stamped body panel, feeling for microscopic paint imperfections or subtle metal warps that are measured in tiny fractions of a single millimeter. If a component does not meet this obsessive, almost fanatical standard of physical perfection, it is immediately rejected, melted down, and sent completely back to the foundry. This is not an exaggerated marketing gimmick. It is a foundational manufacturing philosophy that drastically reduces the potential outcomes of premature component failure long before the vehicle ever reaches a dealership lot. But the true underlying secret to their legendary generational reliability lies securely underneath the hood, specifically in their historical deployment of the naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6 engine architecture. While competing global luxury brands aggressively downsize to highly stressed, turbocharged four-cylinder engines that run incredibly hot and rapidly degrade internal plastic and rubber components, Lexus stubbornly perfected their naturally aspirated engine over multiple decades of relentless refinement. They integrated a brilliant piece of engineering known as the dual-fuel injection system. In a standard direct injection engine utilized by almost every other manufacturer today, fuel is sprayed directly into the highly pressurized combustion chamber. While this maximizes immediate fuel economy, historical trends show it completely bypasses the metallic intake valves. Over tens of thousands of miles, massive deposits of hardened, baked-on carbon accumulate heavily onto those dry intake valves, eventually choking the engine of atmospheric air, causing violent cylinder misfires, and requiring a heavily labor-intensive multi-thousand-dollar engine teardown simply to walnut blast and clean the valves. Lexus completely solved this catastrophic, industry-wide mechanical flaw by utilizing two entirely separate fuel injectors for every single cylinder. They have one highly pressurized direct injector inside the cylinder for immediate high-speed highway power, and a second, completely traditional port injector positioned directly above the intake valve. Under normal, daily driving conditions, the port injector gently sprays a precise, calculated mist of standard fuel and specialized chemical detergents directly over the intake valves, continuously washing them perfectly clean every single time you drive the vehicle to the grocery store. This single, highly intentional engineering decision practically ensures that the engine will breathe perfectly and run flawlessly well past the 200,000-mile mark, with nothing more than basic, incredibly routine preventative maintenance. Imagine if you are James and Emily, a hardworking family raising 3 young children in the sprawling, sun-baked suburban neighborhoods of Dallas, Texas in 2026. They desperately need a highly capable, exceptionally spacious, and incredibly comfortable sport utility vehicle for their brutal hour-long daily highway commutes and extensive weekend road trips across the massive state. They have a strict budget of $45,000. They could easily purchase a brand new, highly depreciating domestic or European luxury crossover. Instead, they make the highly calculated, financially strategic decision to purchase a certified pre-owned Lexus RX. Their immediate neighbor, Mark, decides to purchase a similarly priced, brand new European luxury SUV. For the first 4 years, both families enjoy a premium, comfortable riding experience. But then, right around the highly critical 80,000-mile threshold, the devastating reality of automotive engineering divergence violently reveals itself. Mark's complex European SUV suffers a catastrophic failure of its pressurized, computer-controlled air suspension system, a widely documented historical trend for that specific brand. The vehicle immediately sags heavily to the pavement, completely undrivable, resulting in a terrifying $4,000 repair bill that completely drains his family emergency savings fund. Just 3 short months later, his highly stressed, heavily heat-soaked turbocharged engine requires a complete replacement of its fragile plastic water pump and complex thermostat housing, costing another $2,000. Mark is suddenly financially trapped in a rapidly depreciating asset that is aggressively becoming a massive monthly liability. Conversely, James and Emily's naturally aspirated Lexus RX sales effortlessly and silently passed the 100,000-mile mark, and then directly past the 150,000-mile mark. Their entire maintenance schedule consists absolutely entirely of basic synthetic oil changes, inexpensive engine air filters, and a single routine set of replacement spark plugs. Their internal cabin remains a silent, heavily insulated rolling vault. Lexus heavily engineers their modern interiors using a proprietary, highly advanced synthetic seating material called Nulux. This material physically weighs half as much as traditional heavy animal leather, but is historically proven in extreme weather case studies to be significantly more resistant to severe ultraviolet degradation, deep surface cracking, and accidental tearing from the sharp plastic edges of heavy child safety seats. Even after a full decade of intense, brutal Texas summer heat, and the relentless daily wear and tear of 3 growing active children, James and Emily's interior looks almost exactly identical to the pristine day it originally rolled off the assembly line in Japan. The heavily damped, tactile climate control buttons still operate with a deeply satisfying, premium mechanical resistance. The remarkably thick, multi-layered acoustic glass and massive amounts of dense, foam-injected floorboard insulation continue to entirely block out the aggressive, roaring tire noise of the heavy Dallas interstate traffic. They have effectively purchased a rolling financial fortress. They intelligently bypassed the catastrophic, steep depreciation curve of the luxury automotive market and securely obtained a vehicle that provides the highest possible potential outcomes for physical family safety, extreme mechanical longevity, and profound, restful financial peace of mind. Lexus firmly represents the absolute pinnacle of luxury reliability, completely redefining what an American family can logically expect from a premium automotive investment. However, despite their incredible, undeniable durability, Lexus vehicles still heavily carry a premium initial purchase price, and their highly specialized replacement parts, while exceedingly rarely needed, can still reflect that elevated luxury status at the dealership parts counter. To discover the absolute, undisputed heavyweight king of family reliability, we must completely strip away the premium synthetic leather, physically remove the heavy acoustic window glass, and heavily examine the massive parent company that actually birthed the Lexus brand in the first place. This final legendary manufacturer does not just build reliable commuter cars. They build heavily armored, virtually indestructible mechanical legends. They actively engineer specific family vehicles that are currently operating flawlessly in the most hostile, unforgiving, and extreme environments on the entire planet. We are talking about a historic brand that meticulously over-engineers their standard transmissions and basic engine blocks to such a staggeringly high threshold that their standard suburban minivans and daily driven family crossovers routinely outlast the physical drivers who originally purchased them brand new. You are about to deeply discover exactly why the entire global automotive repair industry completely dreads the extreme reliability of our #1 ranked brand, and exactly which specific model you absolutely need to park in your driveway today to potentially never worry about an expensive, unexpected mechanic bill ever again. The undisputed king of this masterclass, claiming the #1 spot for 2026, is Toyota. To understand why Toyota remains the gold standard for the American family, we have to look past the badge and into a manufacturing philosophy known as the Toyota production system. While other brands operate on a high-stress cycle of radical redesigns every 4 to 5 years to keep up with digital trends, Toyota operates on a principle of Kaizen, or continuous incremental improvement. This means they do not release a new engine or transmission just because the calendar says it is time for a refresh. They only deploy a new mechanical component after it has undergone years of brutal, real-world testing in the most punishing climates on Earth. Historical trends in the automotive industry show that the first 2 years of a new vehicle generation are typically riddled with recalls and unforeseen electrical gremlins. Toyota, however, meticulously maintains the same core mechanical architecture for over a decade in many cases, perfecting the casting of the engine block and the software logic of the transmission until the failure rate is statistically close to zero. Consider the historical case study of the Toyota Sienna, the quintessential American family hauler. In 2026, the Sienna has completely transitioned to an all-hybrid lineup. Many families were initially skeptical of this shift, fearing that adding complex electrical motors and battery packs would compromise the legendary reliability of the traditional gasoline minivan. However, current data from high-mileage taxi fleets in cities like New York and San Francisco tells a much different story. These vehicles are routinely pushed to 300,000 miles in less than 5 years, enduring constant idling, extreme temperature swings, and the relentless physical abuse of urban driving. Because Toyota uses a planetary gear set instead of a traditional multi-gear transmission or a friction-based belt, there is virtually nothing to wear out. There are no clutches to slip and no hydraulic valves to clog. Imagine if you are a father named Marcus living in a high-traffic area like Northern Virginia. Every single day, Marcus navigates his family through 90 minutes of heavy, stop-and-go commuting. In a standard vehicle, this environment is a death sentence for a transmission. The constant shifting between first, second, and third gear creates immense friction and heat. But in Marcus's Toyota, the electric motors handle the low-speed crawling, while the planetary gears spin freely in a bath of synthetic fluid, experiencing almost zero mechanical friction. This is why you see so many 20-year-old Toyotas still cruising the American highways today. They were engineered to survive the neglect of a second or third owner, let alone a first owner who follows the maintenance manual. A massive part of the Toyota reliability secret is their approach to engine cooling and lubrication. Most manufacturers use plastic water pump impellers and plastic thermostat housings to save a few pennies and reduce weight. Over 5 to 7 years of heat cycles, that plastic becomes brittle and eventually shatters, leading to a sudden loss of coolant and a warped engine head. Toyota, however, continues to utilize heavy-duty metal components and over-engineered cooling passages that are significantly larger than what is mathematically required. This provides a massive thermal safety margin. Imagine if you are driving your family through the Mojave Desert in the middle of a record-breaking July heat wave. Your air conditioning is blasting, your vehicle is fully loaded with luggage, and you are climbing a steep mountain grade. In a lesser vehicle, the needle on the temperature gauge would be creeping toward the red zone, putting immense pressure on the head gaskets. In a Toyota, the cooling system is designed to handle that exact thermal load with 50% capacity still in reserve. This intentional over-engineering is the primary reason why Toyota vehicles have such high potential outcomes for reaching the mythical 400,000-mile mark. Furthermore, we must address the financial reality of the year 2026. The average price of a new vehicle in the United States has climbed to a staggering $55,000. For most families, this represents the second largest purchase they will ever make, second only to their home. Buying a vehicle that depreciates by 50% in the first 3 years is a catastrophic financial decision. Toyota vehicles possess a historical trend of having the highest resale value in the entire industry. This is not because they are flashy or luxurious. It is because the secondary market knows that a used Toyota with 100,000 miles on the odometer is often more mechanically sound than a competitor's vehicle with only 50,000 miles. When you purchase a Toyota, you are essentially buying a liquid asset. If your family situation changes in 5 years and you need to sell the vehicle, you will likely find a line of eager buyers ready to pay a premium price because of the trust associated with the brand name. Let us look at another specific example involving a family in 2026 named the Millers, who live in a rural part of Montana where the nearest qualified mechanic is over 60 miles away. For the Millers, a vehicle breakdown is not just an inconvenience. It is a logistical crisis. They chose a Toyota Sequoia because of its body-on-frame construction and its shares everything with a truck powertrain. Because Toyota uses standardized parts across many of their vehicle platforms, a sensor or a belt for a Sequoia is often the same part used in a high-volume Tundra or Tacoma. This means that even in a remote area, parts are readily available and affordable. The simplicity of the design allows even a generalist mechanic to perform repairs quickly and accurately. This ease of serviceability is a key pillar of long-term reliability that most buyers completely overlook in the showroom. You are not just buying the car, you are buying the entire support ecosystem that keeps that car on the road for 2 decades. However, being the #1 brand on our list does not mean Toyota is perfect. In 2026, they have faced significant criticism for their conservative approach to interior technology. If you are a family that prioritizes the largest possible screens, wireless everything, and autonomous driving features that feel like a spaceship, you might find a Toyota cabin to be somewhat dated or utilitarian. They use physical buttons where others use haptic touch sliders. They use analog gauges where others use fully digital screens. But this is exactly why they are #1. A physical volume knob will still work in 30 years. A capacitive touch slider might fail the moment a child spills a drop of sticky soda on it. Toyota understands that for a family, the most important technology is the technology that never stops working. But even with the top 5 brands identified, the masterclass is far from over. Knowing which brand to buy is only half the battle. There is a hidden, darker side to the automotive industry that can turn even a reliable Toyota or Lexus into a financial nightmare. There are specific high-risk years for certain models that you must avoid at all costs. There are secret manufacturing defects that never made it to a formal recall, but are well known in the underground mechanic community. In the next part of this deep dive, we are going to expose the specific red flags you must look for when inspecting a used vehicle. We are going to reveal the top 3 most common ways dealerships trick families into buying a lemon, even when that lemon has a reliable badge on the hood. You will learn the exact 5-minute inspection routine that will save you from a $5,000 mistake. If you think you are ready to go to the dealership, you need to wait until you see the physical evidence we are about to present. To truly master the art of automotive acquisition in 2026, you must understand that a reliable badge is merely the starting line, not the finish. Even within the legendary lineups of Toyota, Lexus, and Honda, there exist specific production windows and mechanical variations that can deviate sharply from the expected historical trends. This is the part of the masterclass where we peel back the curtain on the used car market and the hidden traps that catch even the most cautious American families. Imagine if you are a buyer named Kevin in Columbus, Ohio. Kevin has done his research. He knows that the Toyota RAV4 is a bastion of reliability. He finds a clean one-owner model from 2019 with 80,000 miles on the odometer. It looks pristine, the Carfax is clean, and the salesman is emphasizing the Toyota reputation. Kevin signs the papers, thinking he has secured a decade of worry-free driving. However, because Kevin did not know about a specific documented historical trend involving the early production years of the 8-speed automatic transmission in that specific generation, he begins to notice a violent hesitation and a harsh shifting sensation just 3 weeks into ownership. This is what mechanics call a ghost defect. It is a known issue that often does not trigger a full federal safety recall because it does not result in an immediate crash, but it creates a massive multi-thousand-dollar financial liability for the owner once the powertrain warranty expires. To avoid being the next Kevin, you must adopt a forensic mindset when inspecting any vehicle regardless of the brand. The first and most critical step in your 5-minute inspection routine is the fluid telltale. This requires you to physically pull the oil dipstick and, more importantly, the transmission dipstick if the vehicle is equipped with one. In 2026, many manufacturers are moving toward sealed transmissions, but there is almost always a check plug or a way to verify fluid health. Imagine you are looking at a Honda Pilot. You pull the oil dipstick and notice the oil is a deep, opaque black and has a thick, sludge-like consistency. This is a massive red flag. Even in an indestructible Honda engine, if a previous owner adhered to the extended 10,000-mile oil change intervals while primarily driving in heavy city traffic, the internal oil galleries could be partially clogged with carbon deposits. This leads to a condition called oil starvation, where the high-pressure metal bearings at the top of the engine are not receiving proper lubrication. You are looking at a ticking time bomb. A well-maintained engine, even with 100,000 miles, should show oil that is translucent and amber or light brown. If the oil smells like burnt toast, the engine has likely experienced a severe overheat event in the past, which could have compromised the molecular integrity of the head gasket. Next, you must perform the cold start vibration test. Most dealerships will have the vehicle warmed up and running smoothly before you arrive. You must insist on a true cold start. This means the engine has not been run for at least 4 to 6 hours. When you turn that key or press the start button, you are listening for the first 3 seconds of mechanical noise. If you hear a brief, metallic rattling sound that disappears as soon as the oil pressure builds, you are likely hearing a failing variable valve timing actuator or a stretched timing chain. In brands like Mazda or older Toyotas, this is a clear sign that the vehicle was not serviced with the correct weight of high-quality synthetic oil. This repair is not a simple sensor replacement. It often requires a complete disassembly of the front of the engine, with labor costs easily exceeding $2,000. If the engine idles with a rhythmic, low-frequency thumping or vibration that you can feel through the steering wheel, it indicates that the hydraulic engine mounts have collapsed. While this is not a catastrophic engine failure, it is a significant maintenance item that indicates the vehicle was likely driven hard over poor road surfaces, which should lead you to investigate the suspension components next. This leads us to the high-stakes world of the pre-purchase inspection. In 2026, the complexity of automotive sensors means that a car can have 20 hidden error codes stored in its computer memory without ever illuminating a single warning light on the dashboard. These are called pending codes. They represent systems that are currently failing, but have not yet met the mathematical threshold to trigger a check engine light. A common case study involves families buying used hybrids like a Lexus RX 450h. They test drive it feels great, but they fail to plug in a basic OBD2 diagnostic scanner. Hidden in the computer memory is a pending code for a cooling fan failure in the high-voltage battery pack. The car drives fine today, but the moment that family takes a long summer trip to Florida, the hybrid battery will overheat and potentially fail, resulting in an $8,000 replacement bill. You should never, under any circumstances, purchase a used vehicle in 2026 without paying an independent, third-party mechanic approximately $200 to perform a comprehensive diagnostic scan and a physical inspection on a lift. This $200 investment is the only way to confirm that the potential outcomes of your purchase remain positive. Furthermore, we need to talk about the deceptive practice of cosmetic masking. Dealerships and high-volume wholesalers have become incredibly proficient at making a mechanical nightmare look like a showroom floor queen. They use high-pressure steam cleaners to remove every trace of oil leaks from the bottom of the engine. They use heavy-duty silicone sprays to make old, dry-rotted rubber hoses look brand new and shiny. They even use specialized additives in the engine oil to temporarily quiet down noisy lifters or smoking exhaust valves. To see past this, you need to look at the areas they forget to clean. Check the interior of the wheel wells for heavy, dried mud or clay, which indicates the vehicle was used for off-roading or lived on a rural dirt road, putting extreme stress on the wheel bearings and suspension bushings. Open the trunk and lift the spare tire cover to look for standing water or rusted metal seams. This is a definitive sign of a past collision that compromised the rear body seals, leading to hidden mold and electrical corrosion in the rear wiring harnesses. Imagine a character named Sarah in 2026. Sarah is looking for a reliable family SUV and finds a Subaru Ascent that looks perfect. The paint is flawless and the interior smells like new. But when she pulls back the rubber weather stripping around the door frames, she sees tiny, jagged metal burrs and a slight mismatch in the paint color. This is the telltale sign of a frame puller. This vehicle was likely involved in a major structural accident, totaled by an insurance company, and then rebuilt in a cut-rate body shop. Because it was never reported to the traditional tracking databases, it shows up as a clean title. If Sarah had bought this car, she would be putting her family into a vehicle whose structural integrity was compromised, meaning the crumple zones would not perform as designed in a second accident. This is why the physical inspection of the body seams and the underside of the vehicle is non-negotiable. The modern used car market is a minefield, but equipped with this level of detail, you are no longer a victim. You are a hunter. You are looking for the rare vehicle that has been maintained with obsessive care by an owner who understood the value of their investment. But even if you find the perfect car, and even if it is a top-ranked Toyota or Honda, there is one final massive hurdle you must clear before you can truly say you have protected your family's financial future. Most people think the transaction ends when they hand over the check, but the first 90 days of ownership are actually the most critical period for ensuring the long-term survival of the vehicle. There is a specific high-level maintenance protocol that almost no one follows, which can effectively double the remaining lifespan of a used engine. In the next segment, we are going to break down the 90-day survival plan for your new-to-you vehicle. We will reveal the 3 specific fluids you must change immediately, regardless of what the dealership told you, and the one hidden filter that is likely clogging right now, slowly starving your engine of the clean air it needs to breathe. You will see why the factory maintenance schedule is actually designed for the first owner, and why following it as the second owner is the fastest way to the scrapyard. To truly understand why the factory maintenance schedule is a calculated risk for the second owner, you must recognize the primary objective of any automotive manufacturer in 2026. Their priority is to minimize the advertised cost of ownership for the first 3 to 5 years. By extending oil change intervals to 10,000 miles and labeling transmission fluids as lifetime, they create a marketing narrative of low maintenance that appeals to the initial leaseholder or the new car buyer. However, historical trends and mechanic case studies consistently reveal that these extended intervals are designed to get the vehicle just past the 100,000-mile powertrain warranty mark. For the American family purchasing a pre-owned vehicle, following these original guidelines is often the fastest way to experience a catastrophic mechanical failure. Your 90-day survival plan begins the very hour you park that vehicle in your driveway. The first non-negotiable step in this protocol is the baseline fluid reset. Even if the dealership provided a printed service record claiming the oil was recently changed, you must treat that information as unverified data. Dealerships frequently use the cheapest bulk conventional oil available to save on reconditioning costs. You need to immediately drain the engine oil and replace it with a high-quality, full synthetic lubricant that meets the most recent API-SP or ILSAC GF6 standards. These modern oil formulations are specifically engineered to combat low-speed pre-ignition and timing chain, wherein the high-compression engines used by brands like Mazda and Toyota. By resetting this baseline, you ensure that every internal metal surface is coated in a fresh, high-strength chemical barrier that can withstand the thermal stress of a long family commute. But the engine oil is only the beginning. You must immediately address the most neglected fluid in the entire automotive world: the brake fluid. Imagine if you are a driver named Brian navigating the steep, winding mountain passes of the Blue Ridge Mountains in late 2026. Your vehicle is fully loaded with camping gear and your family. As you descend a long grade, you are constantly applying the brakes. Brake fluid is hygroscopic, meaning it naturally absorbs moisture from the atmosphere through the rubber hoses and the master cylinder reservoir cap over time. By the time a vehicle is 4 or 5 years old, that fluid can contain up to 4% water. Under the intense heat of mountain braking, that water turns into steam, which is compressible. Suddenly, Brian presses the brake pedal, and it goes straight to the floorboard with zero stopping power. This is a terrifying, preventable safety hazard. Replacing the brake fluid every 2 to 3 years is a critical, low-cost maintenance task that ensures your family's safety during high-stress driving maneuvers. The second pillar of the 90-day survival plan involves the hidden filters that most owners and even some quick lube shops completely ignore. While everyone knows about the engine air filter, almost no one thinks about the cabin air filter or the fuel vapor canister filter. In 2026, air quality in major American metropolitan areas has become a significant health concern for families with young children or elderly passengers. A clogged 5-year-old cabin air filter is a breeding ground for mold, mildew, and accumulated road pollutants. Replacing this filter not only improves the efficiency of your HVAC system, reducing the load on your alternator and engine, but it also ensures that the air your children are breathing inside that enclosed cabin is as clean as possible. Furthermore, you must inspect the engine air intake for any signs of debris or rodent nesting. Imagine if a small mouse had built a nest in the airbox while the vehicle sat on a dealer lot for 3 months. The moment you accelerate onto a high-speed highway, that nesting material can be sucked into the mass airflow sensor, causing the engine to stall instantly in the middle of heavy traffic. Now we must discuss the most controversial component of the survival plan: the transmission fluid exchange. Manufacturers in 2026 continue to use the term lifetime fluid, but as any veteran mechanic will tell you, lifetime simply means until the warranty expires. Transmission fluid is a complex chemical cocktail that acts as a hydraulic fluid, a lubricant, and a coolant. Over time, the friction material from the internal clutches creates microscopic metallic silt that circulates through the delicate valve body. If you buy a vehicle with 80,000 miles and the fluid has never been changed, you are inviting a total transmission failure. You must perform a fluid exchange, not a high-pressure flush. A high-pressure flush can dislodge accumulated debris and jam it into the microscopic passages of the transmission's computer-controlled solenoids. A gentle exchange, where the old fluid is allowed to drain naturally and replaced with fresh synthetic fluid, preserves the internal seals and ensures the smooth, predictable shifting required for family safety. Let us examine a case study involving a family in 2026 named the Garcias. They purchased a used Honda Odyssey with 95,000 miles. The previous owner followed the factory maintenance schedule to the letter, which meant the transmission fluid had never been touched. Within the first month, the Garcias noticed a slight shudder when the vehicle shifted from second to third gear. Instead of ignoring it, they followed the 90-day survival plan and performed 2 consecutive transmission fluid exchanges over a 2-week period. This process gradually cleaned the internal sensors and restored the proper friction coefficients. The shudder disappeared, and the vehicle has since sailed past the 150,000-mile mark without a single mechanical hiccup. Had they ignored this subtle warning sign and waited for a dashboard light, they would have been facing a $6,000 transmission replacement. The final element of your 90-day protocol is the battery and charging system validation. Modern family vehicles in 2026 are essentially rolling computers that require a stable, consistent voltage to operate their safety sensors and infotainment systems. A weak battery that is 5 or 6 years old might still have enough power to start the engine on a warm day, but its internal resistance is likely sky-high. This puts an immense, constant load on the alternator, which is a significantly more expensive component to replace. But even with a perfect vehicle and a perfect maintenance plan, there is one external force that can still destroy your automotive investment in an instant. It is a force that most American families completely ignore until it is too late. It has nothing to do with the engine, the transmission, or the electronics. It is a slow, silent killer that eats your vehicle from the inside out. And in 2026, it is more aggressive than ever due to changing climate patterns and the chemicals used on American roads. If you live in any state that experiences a true winter, or even if you live near the coast, your vehicle is currently under biological and chemical attack. We will show you why a $5 car wash is actually doing more damage to your frame than the salt itself. And we will reveal the one specific product you can apply once a year that will prevent your reliable Toyota or Honda from literally snapping in half. Don't let your mechanical masterpiece turn into a pile of rust before you even finish the loan. The chemical warfare being waged against your vehicle in 2026 is significantly more advanced and destructive than anything your parents ever faced. In the past, municipal road crews relied on simple rock salt to melt ice. While corrosive, rock salt was crystalline and tended to bounce off the chassis or wash away relatively easily. Today, however, departments of transportation across the United States have pivoted to high-concentration liquid brines, often infused with magnesium chloride or calcium chloride and specific chemical tackifiers. These additives are designed to make the solution stick to the road surface longer, but they also make it stick to your vehicle's metal frame with the tenacity of industrial-strength glue. This liquid brine possesses an incredible capillary action, meaning it does not just sit on the flat surfaces of your floorboards. It actively crawls into the microscopic gaps between your brake lines and their mounting brackets. It seeps into the hollow interior of your frame rails, and it migrates behind the plastic wheel well liners where it can stay damp and active for months. Imagine if you are a driver named Jackson living in a city like Minneapolis or Boston in 2026. Jackson is a responsible owner. He drives a top-rated, reliable Toyota Highlander. Every weekend during the winter, he dutifully visits a high-end touchless car wash and pays for the premium undercarriage spray, believing he is rinsing away the salt. However, historical trends and mechanic case studies reveal a devastating irony. Those high-pressure undercarriage sprays often lack the volume of water necessary to truly neutralize the chemical brine. Instead, they simply pressurize the salty mist, driving it deeper into the vehicle's electrical connectors and suspension bushings. Furthermore, if Jackson's vehicle was ever treated with a traditional, old-school rubberized undercoating, the situation is even worse. Over time, that hard rubber shell develops microscopic cracks from road debris and thermal expansion. The liquid brine enters those cracks, gets trapped against the bare metal by the rubber coating, and creates a pressurized rot chamber. Jackson's Highlander could look absolutely pristine on the outside, while the main structural frame rails are literally being hollowed out by oxidation from the inside out. There are countless documented case studies of vehicles in 2026 failing state safety inspections because their control arm mounts literally snapped off due to hidden corrosion, despite the vehicle having a clean body and a reliable engine. To prevent this mechanical tragedy, you must ignore the glossy advertisements for permanent rubber coatings and instead look at the high-potential outcomes of the oil-based or lanolin-based rust inhibitor revolution. This is the specific once-a-year application that acts as a physical and chemical shield for your family's investment. Products like fluid film, wool wax, or crown represent a total departure from traditional undercoating. Instead of drying into a hard, brittle shell, these substances are non-drying, self-healing, and hydrophobic. They are derived from lanolin, the natural wool grease found on sheep, or specialized petroleum-based oils infused with powerful corrosion inhibitors. When Jackson applies a lanolin-based inhibitor to his Highlander, the substance remains in a semi-liquid, tacky state. If a rock chips the coating, the surrounding oil literally crawls back over the exposed metal to reseal the wound. This is known as creeping. Because these products have a very low surface tension, they actively displace moisture. If there is already a microscopic layer of damp salt brine in a frame seam, the oil-based inhibitor will drive the moisture out and bond directly to the metal, effectively suffocating the oxidation process by removing the oxygen and water necessary for rust to form. Consider the long-term financial case study of two identical Honda CR versus driven in the Rust Belt of upstate New York. The first vehicle is left untreated and relies on standard car washes. By year 6, the high-pressure fuel lines and brake lines are severely pitted. The exhaust heat shields are rattling because the bolts have rusted through, and the rear subframe is showing deep structural scale. The second vehicle receives a professional, 90-minute application of a lanolin-based inhibitor every October. By year 10, the underside of the second CRV still possesses its original factory paint markers on the suspension components. The brake lines look brand new, and the bolts turn freely during routine maintenance, saving the owner hundreds of dollars in labor costs that would otherwise be spent drilling out snapped, rusted fasteners. This is not just about aesthetics. It is about the fundamental safety of your family. In 2026, modern vehicles utilize thin-walled, high-strength steel to save weight and improve fuel economy. This means there is less metal to lose before structural integrity is compromised. A rusted-through brake line can result in a sudden total loss of stopping power. A corroded suspension mount can cause a wheel to detach at highway speeds. By investing approximately $150 a year in a professional oil-based treatment, you are essentially purchasing a safety insurance policy that keeps the backbone of your vehicle as strong as the day it left the factory. Furthermore, these modern inhibitors are non-conductive and safe for the complex electrical harnesses found in the hybrids we discussed earlier. They actually protect electrical connectors from green crust corrosion, which is a leading cause of intermittent sensor failures and expensive diagnostic nightmares in 2026. While a rubberized coating can mask a problem until it is too late, an oil-based inhibitor keeps everything visible and accessible for your mechanic, ensuring that any legitimate issues are caught during routine inspections. As we reach this point in our masterclass, you have learned the top 5 brands, the engineering secrets that make them durable, the forensic tricks to avoid buying a lemon, the 90-day survival protocol for a used purchase, and the chemical defense strategy to defeat the silent killer of rust. You are now in the top 1% of informed automotive consumers in the United States. You have the data, the case studies, and the step-by-step instructions to navigate the most expensive, high-stakes purchase of your family's life with absolute precision. But there is one final overarching philosophy that ties this entire masterclass together. It is a mindset shift that separates the families who are constantly stressed by car payments and repair bills from the families who build generational wealth while driving the best vehicles on the road. In the final part of this series, we are going to synthesize everything we have discussed into the ultimate family vehicle investment strategy. We are going to reveal the one final crucial question you must ask yourself when standing in that dealership showroom. A question that will instantly tell you if the car you are looking at is a reliable partner or a financial parasite. We will also provide a comprehensive, printable checklist that summarizes every data point from this 10-part deep dive, ensuring you never miss a detail when the pressure is on. The conclusion of this masterclass is the bridge between knowledge and action, and it starts right now. To bridge the gap between theoretical knowledge and real-world application, we must address the ultimate question that determines the financial destiny of every American family in 2026. Is this vehicle a tool for your freedom, or is it an anchor for your debt? Throughout this masterclass, we have meticulously dissected the mechanical superiority of Toyota, the obsessive craftsmanship of Lexus, the contrarian engineering of Mazda, the hybrid reinvention of Honda, and the rugged, all-weather stability of Subaru. But even the most reliable mechanical object on the planet can become a financial parasite if your acquisition strategy is flawed. The true secret to long-term automotive success in the United States is what economists call the total cost of ownership optimization. Most families make the catastrophic mistake of only looking at the monthly payment. They see a $700 a month figure and decide they can swing it without ever calculating the secondary costs of high-octane fuel requirements, specialized low-profile tire replacements that cost $400 per corner, or the staggering insurance premiums associated with high-risk, high-tech European platforms. Imagine if you are a driver named Thomas in 2026, living in the high-cost-of-living area of Northern California. Thomas has 2 choices. Option A is a flashy, brand-new electric crossover from a startup manufacturer. It has a massive screen and claims to drive itself. On paper, the monthly payment is identical to Option B, which is a certified pre-owned Lexus GX. However, the historical trends for the startup electric vehicle show a 40% depreciation hit in the first 12 months alone. Furthermore, because the infrastructure for repair is limited, a minor fender bender in a parking lot could result in the vehicle being sidelined for 4 months while waiting for a proprietary sensor array. Thomas, being a student of this masterclass, chooses the Lexus. Why? because he understands the internal logic of the secondary market. By purchasing a vehicle that has already survived its initial steep depreciation curve, and by choosing a brand with a historical trend of 300,000-mile durability, Thomas is essentially parking his money in a high-yield savings account that he can also drive to work. This leads us to the final crucial question you must ask every salesperson. Can I see the service history for the last 36 months? In 2026, if a dealership cannot or will not provide a detailed, digitized service record showing consistent oil changes and fluid inspections, you must walk away immediately. It does not matter if the badge says Toyota or Lexus. A reliable car that has been neglected is significantly more dangerous than a less reliable car that has been meticulously maintained. Think of the vehicle's engine as a human heart. Even a person with the best genetics in the world will suffer a failure if they never exercise and only eat processed chemicals. The same logic applies to your powertrain. We have provided you with a comprehensive printable checklist that serves as your defensive shield. This checklist covers the fluid translucency test, the cold start acoustic analysis, the body seam alignment check, and the electronic control module scan. If a vehicle cannot pass every single point on this list, it is not the right vehicle for your family. But our masterclass must also address the emotional psychology of car buying. In 2026, social media and digital advertising are designed to make you feel inadequate if you are not driving the latest model year. They want you to feel that your 2020 Toyota is obsolete because it lacks the latest ambient lighting package or a slightly larger touchscreen. This is a manufactured insecurity designed to keep you in a cycle of perpetual debt. True reliability for an American family is the psychological peace of mind that comes from knowing your vehicle is paid for. It is mechanically perfect, and it will start every single morning regardless of the weather. When you drive a vehicle for 10 or 15 years, you are essentially paying yourself a massive dividend every single month. Consider the case study of the Miller family in 2026. By driving their 2018 Honda Odyssey for a full decade and following the 90-day survival protocol, and the annual rust inhibition strategy we discussed, they avoided 8 years of car payments. That represents over $60,000 in saved capital, which they were able to pivot into their children's college funds and their own retirement accounts. That is the real power of choosing a reliable brand. It is not just about avoiding a mechanic, it is about buying your own future. We must also highlight the emerging data regarding 2026 model years and the global supply chain. We are seeing a historical trend where manufacturers are increasingly using lighter, thinner materials and more complex electrical architectures to hit weight targets. This makes the older, more robustly built models from the 2018 to 2023 era the current sweet spot for long-term family reliability. These vehicles possess the modern safety features like lane keep assist and emergency braking, but they still utilize the heavy-duty mechanical components that were engineered before the most recent round of extreme cost-cutting measures took effect. If you find a well-maintained, naturally aspirated Mazda or a non-turbocharged Toyota from this specific window, you have found the automotive equivalent of a unicorn. As you prepare to take action, remember that you are now the most informed person in the room. When the finance manager at the dealership tries to sell you a $3,000 third-party extended warranty filled with exclusions, you will have the confidence to say no because you have already performed your own forensic inspection. When they try to sell you a permanent paint sealant for $900, you will know that a $50 DIY ceramic coating provides superior potential outcomes. You are no longer a target for the high-pressure sales tactics of the automotive industry. You are an educated consumer with a clear, data-driven plan. This 10-part masterclass was designed to be your definitive guide through the chaos of the 2026 automotive market. We have covered the top 5 brands, the engineering failures to avoid, the maintenance protocols to adopt, and the chemical defenses to deploy. But as the world of automotive technology continues to evolve at a blistering pace, there are already new threats and opportunities appearing on the horizon. The transition to solid-state batteries, the rise of subscription-based mechanical features, and the impact of artificial intelligence on vehicle longevity are all topics that will determine the next decade of family transportation. You have mastered the fundamentals of the current landscape, but the journey to total automotive self-sufficiency is a continuous process. To ensure you stay ahead of the curve, we have one final resource for you. While we have identified the best brands to buy, there is a completely separate list that is perhaps even more important for your survival. There are 5 specific, widely popular vehicles currently sold in the United States that are suffering from a hidden, catastrophic failure of their structural integrity that is just now being uncovered by independent crash testing facilities in early 2026. These are vehicles that many of you might currently have in your driveway or are considering for your next purchase. In our upcoming investigative series, we are going to name these specific models and show you the high-speed footage of why they are failing to protect families in side-impact collisions. You have the mechanical knowledge, now you need the safety data that the manufacturers are desperately trying to keep quiet. The next phase of your education is about to begin, and it could be the most important information you ever receive.